Welcome to the Tabletop Ramblings Middle-earth Strategy Battle Games Solo Tournament. The first game of round 3 sees Bard the Bowman against Boromir, Captain of the White Tower. Both of our champions need to secure victory here in Game 5 in order to ensure their position on the tournament ranking table. Bard the Bowman, leading his survivors of Laketown, will be calling upon his militia to give their all to secure victory. Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, leading his Minas Tirith force, needs to rally his men and to defeat the survivors of Laketown and Bard. As we've said, this is Game 5 of the tournament. It's a 6-game tournament, so things are nearing their conclusion, and this result will be critical to the final tournament result. If you've not already seen the other tournament games, please do go and check those out, and do like, comment and subscribe, but above all, hit that bell button so that you'll be notified when the final game is released. Let's go and remind ourselves of the armies that our champions are leading to war today. Boromir is leading his Minas Tirith force from atop his horse, and he also has a shield and the banner of Minas Tirith. Accompanying him are 2 knights with shield, 6 warriors with shield, 3 warriors with spear and shield, and 3 Fountain Court Guard with shield. Accompanying Boromir to war is Ingold. He has 4 warriors with shield, 3 with spear and shield, 2 Fountain Court Guard with shield, and a knight with shield. And finally, we have Damrod. He has with him 4 rangers with spear and 2 knights with shield. And that is Boromir's 600-point army. The survivors of Laketown, led by Bard, atop his horse, and he has with him 4 militia with shield, 4 militia with spear, and 3 militia with bow. And he's also got Alfred the Counsellor and his 2 children, Sigrid and Tilda. If you're still not familiar with this list, just a quick reminder, Alfred, before priority is rolled, is able to elect to spend any or all of his will to increase the might of a friendly survivors of Laketown hero. He will roll a dice for each will spent. On a 1, he steals a point of might, but on a 2+, he gives a point of might to that hero. The children are little buffs for Bard. If he's in range of one of them, he will gain +1 to his fight value, and if he's in range of both, then he gets a heroic combat for free each turn. Accompanying Bard, there's Gandalf the Grey. Atop his horse, he leads 4 militia with shield, 4 with spear and shield, and 3 militia with bow. And finally, the militia captain atop the barrels there is leading 2 militia with bow and 3 militia with sword and shield. And that is the 600 points of survivors of Laketown. Today's battlefield is the aftermath of a storm. These deceptively shallow waters weeks ago were a raging torrent filled with tidal surges, smashing ships into rocks and leaving barges motionless and abandoned on the banks. The streams have now returned back to being simple, shallow pathways for fish and present no impediment to those on foot or on horse. The battlefield has scattered rocks and ruins and the remains of several ships and their cargo. Today's battle will be reconnoitre. The purpose of reconnoitre or recon is to get your force across the board to the other side. The majority of the victory points are for achieving this. You get 3 victory points if you have at least one model that has left the opposite side and more than your opponent. You get 5 if you have double your opponent and at least 2. And if triple the number of models than your opponent has left the board edge, and that's at least 3, then you get 7 victory points. The remaining victory points are for killing the enemy leader. You get 1 victory point, 2 if you kill the enemy leader and yours is still alive, and you get 1 victory point for breaking the enemy, and 3 for breaking the enemy while being unbroken yourself. Deployment for the recon scenario uses the reinforcement special rule. Both sides are not deployed at the beginning of the battle, but rather at the end of each player's turn. Each warband rolls a dice, and on a 4+, they enter from their board edge, and on a 1, 2, or 3, they do not enter. Each failed roll does give +1 to the dice for their next attempt. For this battle, Bard the Bowman will be using the green dice, and the survivors of Laketown will thus be the good player, and Boromir will be using the red dice and will be the evil player. Now that we've met the champions and we've seen the board and we understand the scenario, it's now time to roll for turn 1 priority. First turn priority, and it goes to Minas Tirith. End of turn 1 movement sees Boromir and his warband deploy in the centre, with the knights ranging off onto the left flank to try and escape the board, with then Damrod on the right hand side and his 2 knights running off again right on to that right flank. Ingold only rolled a 3, so he doesn't come on this turn. Laketown responded by placing Bard down. He came on and he is directly opposite Boromir's warband. And then Gandalf came on leading his militia, and he cast Terrifying Aura. So enemy models will now have to take a courage test to be able to charge him. He didn't cast Blinding Light because the Rangers had already come on and they had already moved full, so wouldn't be able to shoot this turn. Nothing is in range of shots, so we'll go straight into turn 2 priority. Turn 2 again goes to Minas Tirith. End of turn 2 movement sees Boromir advancing up the centre in the left with his warriors and his 2 knights moving to put that battered bridge between them and the bowfire. The Rangers and Damrod moved up just 3 so that they would be able to shoot, and on the far right the knights advanced further towards the centre with the aims of exiting the board on the enemy side. The end of their movement, Ingold rolled high enough to come onto the board and is coming on that right hand flank behind the Rangers. In the survivors of Laketown move, Gandalf and his warriors move forward, and Gandalf himself cast Blinding Light. That means that any enemies trying to shoot them will need to hit on a 6. It's not channeled, so it will only last this turn. Bard move forward 5, so he'll be able to shoot with his great bow, and his militia just formed up around him. The archers on the left have moved across so that they'll be able to get some shots on the knights, although they will have some in the ways. And then finally, at the end of their move, the captain has come on. He has come on with that small warband on the right, facing off against the knights. The archers have only moved half, so they will be able to try and take some shots to unhorse that incoming charge. With all that movement done, we go into the shoot phase. Down on the right hand side of the board, the 4 Rangers and Damrod will be able to get clear shots. That boat is low enough that they have nice clear shots at the militia over there in the distance. They've moved, so they're hitting on 4s, and Damrod is that bigger dice. A good set of hits there with just 1 missing. And on defence, 5, they need 6s to wound. Ooh, not quite. No wounds there. In the survivors shoot phase, the 2 archers over there in the distance are going to take shots at these 2 knights. They've moved, so they're hitting on 5s. 1 hits. Does it hit the horse or rider? 1, 2, 3, it's the horse. And it is the horse. So now looking for 5s to wound that horse. Oh, and a 4. Again, just not quite high enough there with the arrows at this distance. The next volley comes from these 3 archers here. And they are going to take shots into those low defence rangers. They've moved, so they're hitting on 5s. And all of them miss. Dear me, that is not a good showing so far for the archery. Some further shots from the militia. Those 3 at the back are going to be shooting at the knights. They're hitting on 5s because they've moved. Just 1 hit. And that broken bridge there is going to be a big in the way, and they need to get a 5+ to get past it. No, just a 2. So those shots fail. Finally, we have Bard, the bowman. He has moved half, so he's hitting on 4s. And he is going to be shooting into Boromir. That is a 3. Oh dear, not worth a point of might at this stage in the game. All of the shots have been fired. At these extreme ranges, none of the arrows have managed to hit their mark. Just before we go into turn 3 priority though, Alfred is going to roll all 3 of his will with his dubious council special rule to try and give Bard some extra might. So he's going to roll these on a 2+. Oh dear. On a 2+, he gives him extra might. So he goes there up to 5 might. But that 1 steals a point of might. So Bard now has 4 might, which is better than when he started. And Alfred has 1 might. And now we go into turn 3 priority. It goes to the survivors of Laketown this time. End of the movement phase. And Bard has advanced. He's split his force slightly just to defend that boat because it's quite low and doesn't want the forces of Minas Tirith to surround him. He's got his bowman shuffling again further to the left to try and take some shots. And Gandalf has cast Blinding Light again to stop any bow shots hitting his force. The captain has advanced on the flank to be just out of charge range of the knights, and his bowmen have advanced to take shots. Minas Tirith movement, however, those knights had other ideas and have moved out of line of sight of those 2 bowmen and are coming to engage Gandalf's force and to join up with this big block here with Ingold and the Rangers. The Rangers there having just moved half to take shots. Over on the left, Boromir is facing off against Bard, and the 2 knights have moved to be behind the cover there to protect themselves from the archery. The lines are getting ever closer, but before they do clash, there will be more bow shots. So we'll go into the shoot phase for turn 3. These 3 bowmen had to move full in order to get into position, so they are unable to shoot. And those 2 up there no longer have the cavalry in sight, but 1 right on the far side does have a shot at one of these warriors. So he's going to try and hit on a 5. It hits there on a 6. He needs a 6x4, but it's just a 1. Breaking the enemy formation apart, but no damage there. The next shots from the survivors of Laketown are on the far left. Those 3 no longer have line of sight on the cavalry there, so instead they're just going to go on the front rank there. They've moved, so they're hitting on 5s. 2 good hits there, 5 and a 6. And then we'll need 6s by 4s because of shield wall. That is a 6. So if this 6 can now be re-rolled to a 4+, it'll be first blood. And it's another 6. And that warrior there falls. That is the first casualty of the game. Next, Bard is going to take a shot with his bow, and he is going to be shooting Boromir. He's moved, so he's hitting on 4s. Just a 3. Not worth a point of might there. The forces of Minas Tirith, these archers here are going to shoot up into these militiamen. They have moved, so they're hitting on 4s, and this dice here, the bigger one, is Damrod. Oh dear, that's not nearly as good as last time, with a lot of misses there, leaving just 1 hit, needing 6s to wound. No, just a 3. So again, ineffectual shooting from the Rangers. End of turn 3, and the arrows starting to hit their mark now. Minas Tirith feeling their sting, and the lines are getting ever closer. We'll go into turn 4 priority. Turn 4 goes to Minas Tirith. Gandalf is the last model to move for the survivors of Laketown, and he is just going to move 5 inches this way, which gets him easily into range of Boromir. And then he is going to use 2 will from his store and his free to cast Transfix on Boromir. It goes off on a 6 there. That is nasty for Boromir. He does have 3 points of will, but if he burns them all, he's going to be quite vulnerable. So he's going to risk it on 2 points of will to resist that. Oh dear! Oh dear, on a 2 high to resist. He is going to be transfixed. He's not going to risk there spending 4 points of might on that. So he is transfixed in combat there with Bard. The rest of Gandalf's move, he then just moves back to where he was. End of turn 4 movement, and this is how the board is looking. We've already seen that Boromir has charged into Bard. None of his warriors were in range, but unwilling to give Bard the advantage, he charged Bard and his warriors have formed a wall around him so they'll be able to back away and can't be trapped. The knights have charged up the left flank and those archers are facing them down. Over here, Minas Tirith has advanced. The knights have moved behind the infantry, ready to spring out and smash into that small force with Gandalf. And the Rangers have all advanced full to take up positions to hold the right and to support against Gandalf as necessary. That's just been countered by the survivors of Laketown by advancing their small band with the captain and those archers getting ready for the shoot phase. We'll begin the shoot phase with the survivors of Laketown as Minas Tirith have moved full. And it's those 2 archers shooting into this cavalry model here. There will be an in the way for this warrior there, but no in the ways for terrain. But they both miss. Oh dear, Laketown shooting has not been doing very well this game. The next shots are these 3. They have stayed still, and they are just going to go into the Rangers. They're going for the ones that are stood up, so there are no in the ways for that boat. They all hit, and they need 5s to wound. Oh, and there is the 6. So one of those Rangers goes down. Finally, on the left-hand side, we have the 3 militia bowmen against those 2 knights. They've not moved, so they are wounding. They're hitting, on 4s. That is another strong set of hits. They're all hitting. So up or down do they hit the horse or rider? We'll do these separately. So on the first one, the rider, another 6 will kill him. No. The second shot, does it hit horse or rider? The horse. And this is a 5+ to wound. Yes. So he is unhorsed. And then another shot, the last shot on him. It's his horse as well. and kills it. That is both knights whipped off their horses by arrows. And being dismounted by that arrow fire, they both take thrown riders and they are both fine. So no horses, but they land lithe on their feet, ready to continue the charge. Start of the combat phase, and there is just one combat. Boromir against Bard. And Bard is going to call a heroic strike, but Boromir, transfixed by Gandalf, is unable to call his own. And the strike sends him up to... Oh dear, that is just a 2. Fortunately, he's within range of the children, which takes him to fight 6, and then that takes him to 8. So he does have fight value advantage on Boromir. That was very close there for Bard. So it is 3 on 3, Boromir against Bard. Boromir does have the banner, and he has 6 might in his store to the 3 from Bard. Starting off obviously with 3, and then +1 with Alfred's dubious counsel there. But he spent 1 on the strike. So if Bard doesn't roll high enough, Boromir can still win this fight. Oh, Boromir gave it his best there with actually exactly the same roll. A 2 a piece, a 3 a piece, but then the 6 a piece there, giving the fight to Bard. Wonder what the odds are of rolling exactly the same for both champions there. If you know, leave it in the comments. So then Bard, oh dear, dropping dice. Bard striking his horse, kills Boromir's horse. He's going to need 6s to wound Boromir. No, he doesn't hurt Boromir, and he's not going to waste any might on that. But Boromir is pushed back and then dismounted. So he can go anywhere touching his horse. So he's able to get nicely into the line there to keep himself protected. And then he does need to roll his Throne Rider. He's been quite unlucky so far this tournament. Here he needs a nice big 6. A 4, that'll do. He's not prone, and he's ready to get stuck back into the fight next turn. End of turn 4. The first combat of the game going not as bad as it could do, although not as Boromir would have liked there, losing his horse. The arrows have started to fly and hit their mark, but now the lines will clash and things will come down to the edge of a sword. And here it could be anyone's game. So we'll go into turn 5 priority. Turn 5 goes to Minas Tirith. Turn 5 movement, and with Minas Tirith priority, Alfred the Counsellor is going to use the point of might he stole from Bard to call a heroic move. Boromir is going to counter the move with a heroic move of his own. Both sides have called. It's a roll-off, 1, 2 or 3. It goes to Minas Tirith, but on a 4, 5 or 6, it is the survivors of Laketown. So Alfred and the models within 6 inches will get to move first. For that heroic move, Alfred just shuffled slightly forward, wanting everyone around him to charge in, but he himself reluctant there to get his hands dirty. The militia have just charged in, possibly about to give their lives in order for Bard to make a big charge there into Boromir. Move, and again Gandalf is the last one to move, and he is going to do exactly the same. He's going to move 5 into range of Boromir. This time though, just with 1 and his 3, he's going to transfix. Oh, just on a 4 that time. Boromir has 1 will left. He's going to resist that on the 5. So Boromir out of will, but he is not transfixed. Then Gandalf will just move back to bolster his lines. End of the movement phase. Boromir has been charged, as we've seen, by Bard, and the lines have clashed. Across on the right, Gandalf whipping away to cast a spell, but he's back. But Ingold there and his warriors have charged, ready to decimate the survivors of Laketown. On the right, the bowmen there, the Rangers and their cavalry have advanced. They are putting pressure on that right flank, and the captain and his militia have responded by charging just one of those Rangers. The bowmen, with no shots, have decided to run up and try and get stuck into combats. The bowmen, over on the other side, even with the erstwhile mounted models screaming down on them, have decided to hold their nerve and get one last round of shooting in. That's then where we'll start in the shoot phase. They haven't moved, so they're hitting on 4s, and they all hit a very strong set of shots there. 6s to kill, 1 dead. Yes, so just 1 dead there. But that is very nice work for the bowman. That rider there who's lost his horse is now looking very, very scared. The fight phase, and Boromir and Bard both declare heroic strikes. Then over on the right, the captain, the survivors of Laketown captain, is calling a heroic combat. Beginning then on the far right with this heroic combat, it's 2 red dice for the Rangers, 2 green for the captain, and then the bigger dice is going to be the militia. Oh dear, and double 6s there. The Rangers not only deny the combat, but win it with style. So they will need 6s against the captain, 5s against the warrior. They're going to put both into the captain. No wounds there, but that is a point of might wasted on the captain. Going for a brave, heroic combat there to try and take out the cavalry, but it did not pay off. Sticking with the right-hand side, we'll come over to the combats near Gandalf. We'll do this knight against an archer. The knight has 2 attacks on the charge and wins it with a 6. So these are going to be double strikes. He needs 5s, which goes down to 4s because of his lance, and he's going to have 4 dice. He gets it there on the 5 with his first set, and that archer is annihilated. The next combat along is a 2-on-1 again. And again, Minas Tirith win. It's just 5s to wound that archer, and that archer goes down as well. Things going to swing now for Minas Tirith. 2-on-2. This time, at least the numbers are in the Laketown, survivors of Laketown's favour. Ooh, as are the dice, but not the fight value. They're only fight value 2 outside of 12 of Bard. So they have lost 5s to wound, and they fall. Absolutely hemorrhaging warriors now. And then it is Ingold's turn. Ingold against 2. Ingold does have spear support, so we'll grab another dice. So this is the spear support, Ingold, and then Ingold rather in the red, and then the green for the survivors. And on a draw, it goes to Ingold. These are all 5s to wound, and the spear support does it. So survivor's spear backs away, but his friend dies. Here we have another 2-on-2. The militia need to start winning some fights. Oh, but it's not going to be this fight. Another 6 there for Minas Tirith. 5+ to wound, a 6. And that militiaman is annihilated. Gandalf is looking very vulnerable and exposed now. 2-on-2. This one has got to go to the survivors, surely. Oh, and it does. The survivors there winning the fight. But with the Resolute Fighter special rule, it is still the survivors that back away, keeping him crucially in shield wall. Which means these are 6s. No, a 5 and a 1, so no wounds there. That shield wall holding completely unfazed as they cut down swathes of survivors of Laketown. Here on the left side with Bard, we'll begin with this 1-on-1. That militia does have an X, so he will piercing strike. And he does. Oh, that's cocked, unfortunately. It's We'll re-roll that to a 1. Oh dear. He had won that. He does have a banner for being in range of Bard. To another 1. So he's lost. What does his defence go down by? It's a D3, so it goes down by 2. He is defence 3. Wounding him on 4s now. The Minas Tirith Fountain Court Guard cuts him down. And that is a dead militiaman. Here it's 2 on 1. But that militiaman is going to shield. He's heard the screams of his kin. And he is absolutely terrified. He's lost, even with his... Oh, actually, no. Oh, yeah, we were right. With the banner, he still could not win. He's +1 fight value around Bard to fight 3. But so are the warriors of Minas Tirith around the banner of Minas Tirith. So he has lost that fight. And they'll be wounding him on 5s. And they kill him. Absolute hemorrhage of warriors here for the survivors of Laketown. 2 on a shielding militiaman. Again, the militiaman can't win and has lost and goes down on 5s. A 5 and a 6. This is horrendous losses. 2 on 1. He is definitely going to shield. He's lost regardless. And he dies. That entire flank there falling to the blades of Gondor. We'll come back to Bard in a second and we'll do this 2 on 2 here. It's a draw, so it currently goes to Minas Tirith. This needs to be a 6 for the survivors. And it is! It is a 6! There is the banner of Minas Tirith there. So if this is another 6... Oh, a 5. So the survivors finally win a fight. Can they kill? They can still back away nicely into shield wall there. Although defense 6 or 7 makes no difference. These will still be 6s. And that is the 6 there. So he is dead. 1 more 4s for Minas Tirith. It could be a little bit one-sided this fight. But still they are getting kills. So 2 on 2. Another win. But there is still the Boromir banner, which doesn't take it. That left flank holding true. Needing 6s. No, just the 5. So they back away unharmed. Finally, we come to the champion duel. We have Bard against Boromir. Both champions have struck. So we'll do that roll off now. Oh, and Bard is only fight 8. Boromir there taking himself up to fight 10. He has won that. So Bard is on the charge. He's going to set the bar. And he gets a 6. He gets 2 6s there. So putting the pressure now on Boromir. Boromir has to get the 6 or at least something that is mightable. Boromir also gets the 6. Boromir is victorious. He is going to put his first one into the horse. Strength 4, defense 4. He has taken the horse from under Bard. And then 2 into Bard himself. He does no wounds, but Bard has fallen from his horse and lost a lot of his killing power. Prone Rider is a 1. Bard is not only off his horse, but he is prone. He takes a hit. On a 6 it wounds him. No, it doesn't wound him, but he is prone and at the mercy of a large Minas Tirith force there, led by none other than Boromir himself. This is going to get very, very messy for the survivors of Laketown. End of turn 5 and the casualties are streaming in. The lines in the centre left and centre right have clashed and Minas Tirith have definitely come away the better with a lot of dead survivors of Laketown. Into priority turn 7 and it goes to Minas Tirith. Start of turn 7 movement. And Bard is calling a heroic move so that he can try and get up and charge before he is surrounded while he's on the ground. Boromir is countering to try and get the jump on Bard. And over here, on the right, the captain is calling a heroic move and Damrod is countering. So we'll do the roll off and see which of the heroic moves is going to go first. Roll off. 1, 2 or 3, it's Minas Tirith. 4+, it goes to the survivors, and that is a 6, so it's gone to the survivors. End of turn 7 movement. And the lines have smashed together again. With the heroic move roll off going to Bard, he has been able to get an incredibly thin line holding back the tide of Minas Tirith there, including putting Alfred on the front line for one last Hail Mary to get Boromir down. The two children have moved across, trying to break around the rock formations and escape the board. And up here, that knight has been surrounded as he charges his way to the board edge. Here in the centre right, Ingold has charged forward with his band into the increasingly desperate survivors of Laketown. The knights have all been able to charge on the right hand side, with Damrod getting his heroic move over the captain, and the knights and rangers have all charged in. Gandalf has moved right to the back behind the fighting, and he, at the end of his move, in the last move of the turn, is going to use 2 will and his free to try and transfix Boromir. He's got 3 dice to transfix. 5 high. Boromir will resist on a 2, so no, he does not resist. So Boromir is transfixed. Start of the combat phase, and Bard is going to use his last point of might to strike. Boromir is transfixed, so he is unable to counter. And over here, Ingold is going to try and make a break through the line towards Gandalf, and he is going to call a heroic combat with his first point of might. Starting with Ingold, he has 2 attacks and a spearman. He'll be the big red dice, the little red dice for his spearman, and then the militia that he's against will shield. Oh, and on high dice there, 6 and 5, Ingold has won that fight. These will all be needing 5s to wound. No, it doesn't go off. So he will use a point of might to win that fight and bring that militia down. And we'll come back after he has moved on. Ingold has charged through the lines, making a break straight for Gandalf there to try and stop any magic from hampering Boromir next turn. We'll continue the combat phase in the centre with a 1-on-1 at the back there. And on a draw, it goes to the superior fighting prowess of Minas Tirith. Needing a 5 to wound. No, the archer backs away. Next, however, it is a 3-on-1, so the militia will shield. And on the 6, the warriors of Minas Tirith win. Was a 6 from survivors. They're trying their best. The 5s will see him die. No. 1, 2, 3. He backs away. 1-on-1 there. And again, survivors shielding. Every last militiaman now is essential. Oh, another draw. But without the fight value advantage, they lose. 5s again, and that time a militiaman does go down. The next fight then is a 2-on-2, which this time does go to the survivors. Can they get a kill? Needing 6s. Yes, they can. And he goes down. So he'll back away because Ingold is no longer providing his resolute fighter special rule. He is out of range now. We then come across to the knight charging 2 archers. It's 2 apiece. Oh dear, on an identical 4-4-3-3. It goes on fight value to the knight, who's going to impale the first on 4s. It's 5s down to 4s with his lance. He kills the first with his first double strikes. His second, oh, not quite. throws him prone. We'll put a prone marker on him in a moment. The next fight we have is Damrod and Juan against the Militia. The Militia will shield. And it goes to Damrod and Friend, who are both needing 5s to wound. Oh dear, double 1s. That is not nearly enough. And the Militiaman backs away. Then we have a 1-on-1, a Ranger against 1. Both going to be fighting normally, but the Ranger wins it easily there on a 6. Needing a 5, kills him. Another Militia goes down. The next fight we have is the Captain against a charging Knight. 2 apiece. Just move that one. 2 apiece. And it goes to the Knight. The Captain out of might after calling the move, and that failed combat. So these are now double strikes. They will be needing 5s because of the lance. And he is knocked down. Again, we'll put a pro marker on him in a minute. So these are double strikes needing 5s. Nothing at all on quad 2s. The Captain lucky there to survive, but he is smashed to the ground. And the next fight then is this Militia, who will shield against 2 in the big dice for the Knight and then 1 for the Ranger. And the Knight easily winning, sheer weight of force from the heavy cavalry. These are all double strikes, and he goes down to the Ranger's 5 there. Another dead survivor of Laketown. We then come across to the fighting around Boromir. We'll start off with poor Alfred, who is unarmed, so he has -1 on the dice roll against 3 who are in range of Boromir's banner. Oh dear, that is not good for Alfred. A 1 can't go any lower than a 1, and he has definitely lost that fight. And these are only needing 4s to wound. Oh, 2 2s and a 4. That's only 1 wound, and he does have fate. Does he stay alive? Yes, on the 6. Alfred backs up there, absolutely loving it there with his fate roll. It's not looking good long term for him, but he survives this day. Then we have a 4-on-1. He's going to shield. And he wins on the 5. There is the banner reroll, which takes it to a 5. So he's lost unless Bard can re-roll into a 6. Throw that miles off the table. No, a 1. So on fight value of the Fountain Court Guard there, he has lost. And these are just 5s to wound. And a 5 and a 6, he is dead. The next fight is this 3-on-1. He's going to shield. It goes to Minas Tirith there. There's nothing that the survivor can do with the fight value of the Fountain Court. Needing 5s to wound. Again, he is dead. This is very, very nasty for the survivors of Laketown. Just before we do the Bard fight, we'll do this last fight here. The Knight, who's about to make a break for it, against 3. Now, one of those is in range of Bard, so there'll be a banner reroll and, crucially, fight 3. So there will be the same fight as the Knight. So they are in green against the shielding Knight, and they've won on the 6. Double strikes needing 6s to wound. Can they kill him? Yes! 2 6s and a 5. Those archers are lethal. They back away, but importantly, that Knight is down. They have done all of the work for the survivors of Laketown so far. And then the final fight is Bard against Boromir. Bard does have 2 friends, and he has used Heroic Strike to take him there to fight 10. He will win the fight on a draw now, but he's out of might. He does have 2 friends, so their attacks with his, we won't differentiate because there's no might. There is no 6 there. There's a banner reroll to the 6. Very, very lucky there, managing to win that fight and push Boromir back. These will all need 6s, so they are needing, realistically, every single one of these to be a 6 to try and claw something from this massacre. 1 6, that'll do. They've managed to get at least 1 wound. It's not what they need, but 1 wound is definitely better than nothing. Just yet, don't think Boromir has spent any fate. So he's going to fake that off with a 6. Absolutely no problems there for Boromir. End of turn 7. Things going from bad to worse for the survivors of Laketown. They need to push one of the flanks and get models off the board quickly, or it is over, as they are now broken. Minas Tirith have taken casualties, but are a long way off being broken themselves. The archers and the children are holding the left, but the central left is looking very, very bad for Bard. Gandalf and his ragtag band trying valiantly to stem the flow on the right, and on the far right it is a big Minas Tirith mess against the survivors. That's how the board is looking as we go into turn 8 priority. Turn 8 goes once again to Minas Tirith, and this could spell disaster for Bard. Battle of the heroics here in the centre, as Bard and Ingold are both calling. Gandalf needing to call to get out of Ingold's way, and Ingold calling to counter that, to get the jump on Gandalf, shut down his magic and try and gut the wizard. Roll off, and it goes to Gandalf on the 4. Gandalf is going to Sorcerous Blast Ingold. He's going to move just to here to make sure the angle is not going to hit any friendlies. And he's going to use 1 and he's 3. No. In fact, he's then going to use a point of might to make that a 5. So it goes off. Does he wound? No. And how far does he go back? Just 1 inch. So he's back and prone, and then Gandalf is going to finish off by charging in. It is time for Gandalf to earn his point cost and get some kills, because things are looking very ropey for the forces of the survivors of Laketown. End of turn 8 movement sees the forces around Boromir surround and trap Bard. His friends have all been charged, including Alfred and one of his children. Sigrid, the younger, was unable to be charged, but she did fail her courage test and fled the battle. The 2 archers from the top did pass, but their comrade failed his, as the forces of Minas Tirith are just breaking through. In the centre, Gandalf, having charged into Ingold with a heroic move, has been counter-supported by a spearman, with warriors of Minas Tirith breaking through to go past, and all of the militia being charged. Over on the right, the knights are streaming past that archer who did pass his courage test, and he is going for the long shot. He stood, he's taking aim, and he will shoot that rider in the back and try and take him off his horse before he can flee the battle. Then down here, the rangers are unable to shield, so unable to not kill if they win. So they've played quite cagey. Damrod and his ranger friend have backed off and allowing just 2 of their brothers to try and hold back the captain and militiamen. So we come to the shoot phase, and we have the yellow raincap archer taking a shot at that fleeing knight. He needs to hit on a 4+. 6, he's got him. Horse or rider. Cocked. Another 6! If this can be 3 in a row, then it will take him off his horse. Oh dear, off the table. Another 6. That is unbelievable. And that knight is dead. That is an unbelievable outing there for the archer. If he can win priority next time and stop that knight from charging off the board, then he will have single-handedly held back the tide of knights. That was unbelievable shooting. And I'm going to try and fish my dice from down the side of the table. Moving down from the incredible archery in the shoot phase to the combat phase, and the survivors need that kind of luck again. If every single survivor can roll a 6 from now on, they've got this in the bag. So 1-on-1 here. Oh, there is a 6, but unfortunately it is the ranger. Needing a 5+ to wound, and he's killed him. Oh, it was short-lived for the survivors, but it was glorious. So now the captain with 2 against the ranger. Oh, that's a lot of 1s. The captain has no might, and he actually loses on fight value to the ranger. He is only fight 3. So the ranger doesn't wound there because the captain is D6. So that at least goes in the captain's favour slightly. The next fighting will be over here on the left, and Minas Tirith are very close to quartering the survivors, at which point the game will end, and at this point it will only be a very narrow victory. And as this is a crucial tournament game, they need to get as many points as possible to secure the top of the podium. So they are going to be very, very boring and shield. The survivors' job now is just to die. So they are going to be doing a lot of stabbing. So it's this 2-on-1. Oh dear. So he loses there and will stab. Stabbing damage doesn't kill him. So he is fine. Next, again, shielding against stabbing here. He wins. That's a unusual outcome there. He does get to reroll 1s. No, not a 1 and not a 6. So he backs away. And then next we have this 1-on-1 here. Minas Tirith shielding against stabbing. Minas Tirith easily winning that with double 6s. And you don't reroll the 1s on stabbing damage, so he is fine. He's not hurt himself. And then again, shielding against stabbing. And another win. Stabbing is obviously the way forward. It's very brave. 3. Doesn't get him. And that is within range of Ingold, so he backs away instead. Then we have charging Gandalf in the green against Ingold and friend. Gandalf with the 6 gets it on fight. Needs seriously high dice rolls again here. He is a whopping strength 5 on the charge with his sword. Not even going to try and pronounce that. Glamdring. He is going to be needing 5s to wound. And these are double strikes. So a lot of 5s here. Oh, that's 1 wound. Can he get it again with his second double strike? Ooh, we'll say that's cocked. No, not meant to be. And he has just taken 1 wound and he'll cop that, save his fate for later. But he is knocked prone. Just double checked, and this is an incredibly small lip, so it wasn't cocked, it's just difficult to see on camera. He rolls his fate, and it is only a 3. So he's going to have to use his... Oh, in fact, no. He's used his last point of might, and he is dead. That is Ingold down. Gandalf there, pulling a rabbit out of a hat and smashing Ingold to pieces. And actually, speaking of Ingold, it will be Gandalf who backs away because of a resolute fighter special rule. Although that is now off the table as Ingold goes down to Gandalf. Across here we have the Fountain Court against Alfred. He's going to shield to make sure he doesn't kill him, and he just backs him away. And the next fight is the 1-on-1 against Sigrid or Tilda? Sigrid, who loses and is pushed back. The warriors of Minas Tirith shielding there to make sure they don't accidentally quarter the survivors too early. The next fight we'll do will be Bard, because these 2 fights here will keep the trap on Bard, and it's Minas Tirith priority. So Bard, out of might, unable to strike. He needs a 6 here. Oh dear. And he does not get it with a 1, 2 and 3. So Boromir easily winning that on the 6. There was nothing Bard could do against the fight 7 champion of Minas Tirith there. And so, rolling first for the friends. We'll just back them all away. As Bard is trapped, he's unable to back away. So the friends, these are the double strikes, wounding on 5s because of the ludicrously low defence of Bard, and that is horrendous. Bard, 4 wounds so far. And then Boromir with his 6 attacks doesn't actually wound, and there are quite a lot of fate points. So he is going to use 2 points of might, taken into just 1 left, but that then makes it a total of 6 wounds on Bard, and he is dead. No amount of fate there is going to save him, or at least not the amount he's got, and he is dead. So the final 2 fights, these 2, can they bring some glory back in the wake of Bard's death? Shielding against stabbing. Stabbing does win, but there's a banner. No. So, can he kill? He needs a 6. No. Just a 5, and he is backed away. And then the final one-on-one there. Shielding against stabbing. Shielding wins. Does he stab himself to death? Oh no, he doesn't. It is only strength 2. And he is backed away. End of turn 8, and things are looking dire for the survivors of Laketown. The central right with Gandalf is overwhelmed. Central left, overwhelmed with Bard dead. Although the heroic archers coming down on the flank. And over here on the right, there is still hope if the captain can cut through. And crucially, if that bowman can get the jump on the knights and stop them from charging off the board. Priority goes to the bowman and to the survivors of Laketown. Unwilling for the survivors to break and flee, ending the game early, Boromir is going to call a heroic move with his last point of might. Gandalf's move, and he is going to blast this spearman out of that combat and into Boromir's combat. 1 and is free, goes off on a 5. Double 5s. That is big. Does it kill him? Yes. And how far back does he go? We need at least a 2 high here. Oh, 1. Unbelievable. He goes back. He's dead, and he does not hit Boromir's fight. Good try, Gandalf, but definitely not. He's just going to end his move by hitting these 2 here and to try and stop as many as possible from going off the board. And you'll note as well that he did not call a stand fast because he is happy there for his 4 militia to flee. Then come to the left, and things are very crucial here with courage tests. We'll do these live. The captain needs to pass, and he does. So he has passed, charged the knight, which then means the stand fast for this archer has passed, and he is in on that knight there. Then at least this turn, those knights will not be able to flee the board. This is the board at the end of turn 9. Crucially, as we've seen, the captain and the yellow rain cap archer managed to stop the knights from getting off the board. The rangers then just followed up to support the knights and also to try and get off the board themselves. Here, despite Gandalf not calling a stand fast, only 1 of his militia fled and 4 just passed and charged into combat. We then have the fighting down here where everything's been engaged. Boromir there going to shield against 2. Everyone just fighting with these 3 charging up, and then these 2 nearly off the board as they were not caught in the heroic move and didn't need to stay within 6 of Boromir. This warrior of Minas Tirith holding up the rear just in case anyone does manage to slip through. And importantly, these 2 archers from the deadly trio are making a break for the board edge. The spearman has come around. The archers moved too far to shoot, so he's safe this turn from their deadly arrows, and he is going to try and stop them if the game lags on. So that is the board. There's no shooting. We go straight into the combat phase where Gandalf is going to spend one of his points of might because he's got 2 left at the moment, so that's going to take him down to 1. He is going to call a heroic combat because there's no point in the game ending with might. He's got 2 on the charge against 2 shielding. That's cocked. Can he get a 6? He's got 1 dice to do it. No. He's lost the fight. Wasted the might, but he's still on his horse, and at least he put some fear momentarily into Boromir and the Gondorians. We'll stick with these fights and we'll do 2 shielding on 1 stabbing. It goes to the forces of Minas Tirith, but that's not all that bad because this will be a 5 to wound against the defense 4, and stabbing damage has killed himself there. That isn't normally something to cheer about, but at this stage, survivors need to be 25%ed for this to end. We have a 2 on 1 stabbing again against shielding. This time, again, he has lost, so looking for a 6 on the strength 2 hit. Another stabbing damage casualty. Survivors desperate to end this in their favour. 2 on 1. And again, he's going to stab. 6 is coming in hot. He's won this time. If he can get another 6, he'll kill him. A 3. Fountain Court backs away. Now it is 2 on 1. They're going to shield. And the militia will stab. On the draw, they win. And so the militiaman, needing another 6 to try and end himself. Just a 1. And he doesn't re-roll the stabbing damage. We'll come across to the right now, where we have the captain on a knight. The knight can't shield because he's on a horse, and the captain is going to drag him from the saddle. He has won there with the 6. He's strength 4, so he needs 5s. 3 and a 5. He's killed the knight. This is definitely dragging Minas Tirith away from top points now, as we have a 1 on 1 there. Come on, Bowman. And the Bowman has won on a 2, needing a 6. In fact, needing a 5 to kill his horse. Slowing him down. No, not quite. And the horseman backs away. We then come across to the unarmed Alfred. As he's unarmed, he's unable to stab, so he's just going to fight normally against shielding. Fountain Court Guard, who wins that and pushes Alfred back. We then have the child, unarmed again, unable to stab against shielding, and wins, pushing him back. And then Boromir will shield, although first, which we forget every time, Boromir is outnumbered, so he forces either of these, it doesn't matter, they have the same courage, to take a courage test, or he automatically wins. Which actually goes massively in their favour. We'll just double check if this has to happen, because if so, Boromir here could really scupper himself and accidentally kill those 2 when he wants to shield. Fortunately for Boromir, it says that Boromir can blow the horn rather than must. So he's not going to blow the horn. It's the first time all game, and possibly even all tournament, that that rule has been remembered, and he's going to actively choose not to blow the horn, and he's going to shield instead. He gets the 6 and pushes those 2 back. Ironically, that is a conversion from the Plastic Mines of Moria Boromir kit into a survivor of Laketown there. Boromir on a Boromir ghost, and he pushes them back. The dice starting to come up, survivors of Laketown there, at the end of turn 9. The survivors have managed to roll well. On the left, taking down a knight, nearly whipping the second off his horse. Here, in a bizarre twist, the survivors managed to kill a lot of their own number, committing suicide to try and quarter their force. But unfortunately, they are still not yet 25%ed. So the game will go on at least one more turn, and there are warriors of Minas Tirith ready to get off the board. We'll go into turn 10 priority. And turn 10 goes to Minas Tirith. There is very little now that the survivors can do to stop this from happening. The ultimate Hail Mary, Gandalf is going to call a heroic move with his last point of might. He's going to get into position and he's going to blast the rear Fountain Court Guard into the front one and try and kill both. He has to take his courage first, which he passes. He then gets to move into position, and then he's got 1 dice. Needs a 5. No, it does not go off. His blast has failed. Both of those will get off, and then he just charges back into them. And we'll come back after Minas Tirith's move. Just before the end of the movement, we'll just move those two off the board to secure VPs and this knight here. And that is the end of Minas Tirith's move. Board at the end of the turn, we have 1 ranger on the archer and Damrod and 2 surrounding the captain. Gandalf fighting 2 spear and 1 spear support, and then here his militia are going to get overwhelmed, as with 3-0 off the table, Minas Tirith can now take the pillows away and replace them with their swords and cut down the surviving survivors. Here the only model to move in the survivors was this incredible bowman from the trio. He passed his courage test and charged. This is more than likely the last turn, so instead of making a break for it, he has just gone for glory and has charged in to help his fellow bowmen. So we'll come back with those combats now. Starting the combat phase on the right, we're going to do the 2 and Damrod against the captain. And the captain does his absolute best there with the 6, but on fight value it goes to Damrod and his friends. They back away and they make strikes on their way back. This is 4 strikes from the normal warriors there, normal rangers needing 6s. That's a wound. And then it's 2 from Damrod, who just needs 5s. Oh, and that is another wound. The captain there, 2 wounds. He's only got 1 fate, which he fails. And the captain goes down at the last. We then have a 1-on-1 there. That archer, who very nearly saved the day on that flank, has lost as well. And he is going down on 5s. Oh, and that's a 6. He has fallen. This is a nasty turn now. And we've got across here Gandalf. 3 on Gandalf's charge. He does have fight value. He gets a 4 high, and it's enough. Here we go. Gandalf should have called a heroic combat, although actually he spent his last point of might, hasn't he? First guy kills him on the 5 there with strength 5. And another 5. He has killed those 2. A nice moral victory there for Gandalf, but not the right kind of victory as far as the tournament is concerned. We've got a 2-on-1 there. And for old time's sake, he's going to stab. And he's won! He has won the fight there. They back away, and he's going to stab the chap. In fact, he's going to stab the spearman. Nearly kills him. This guy is trapped. So he's going to stab. But this time he loses. Nothing he could do against the 6 there. These need 5s, and that has got him. He goes down. These back away, and another survivor falls to the dust. We then come across to 1-on-1. Alfred unarmed loses the fight there, getting killed on a 4. Oh, and he is dead. 1 more casualty for the survivors. Next we have a 2-on-1. He is going to stab because he's brave. He wins. Banner reroll. He still wins. Can he get a 6? He's re-rolling ones. A 2. The worst possible result there. And those two back away. But he's not dead, and that's an improvement for the survivors. As we have a 1-on-1 here. Boromir, Captain of the White Tower against his doppelganger, who is going to be stabbing. Loses. And Boromir, making strikes, cuts him to pieces. We then come across to the 3-on-1. She is unarmed. So close. Unarmed. -1. Loses the fight. They only need definitely a 5 will do it. They only need 4s to wound because she is defense 3. So that's the first set. And that is 3 wounds and she is cut down. She fought hard, but she fell to the dust. Then the final fight is the 2 heroic archers against 1. And they have 1. Can they kill him? Needing 6s? No, they don't do it. And in fact, he backs away. And that is the board at the end of the turn and at the end of the game. There's not many survivors of Laketown left. There's also not that many Gondorians. They are nearly broken, although crucially not quite there yet. But the survivors are quartered. They've taken heavy losses and didn't manage to get anyone across the board. Final victory point tally is brutal. With the incredible leadership of Boromir, 3 of his force were able to escape the board to scout out the enemy position. They net a massive 7 VPs for having triple and at least 3 off the board. And then Boromir personally dispatching Bard nets 2 points for killing the enemy leader while the friendly leader is still alive at the end of the battle. And then a massive 3 for breaking the survivors of Laketown and being unbroken themselves. The survivors there getting 0. So with that brutal end to the game, Minas Tirith on 12 victory points to 0 puts them in an incredibly strong position in the tournament. This is their last game, so they are now relying on other teams to win or lose in their favour. But this has been the best possible showing for their tournament ranking. Bard and his forces did very, very well mid-game, trying to stem the tide, but they were just outclassed, outmatched, and outnumbered, which is not what the survivors want in a list. This was just not their game. The MVP for the forces of Minas Tirith has got to be Boromir, who, despite being thrown around by magic and hacked at in combat, stood firm, resisted, and conquered, holding his side of the battle and slaughtering Bard and securing a full 12-point victory. For the forces of the survivors of Laketown, it's got to be the 3 archers on the left-hand side. While one of them did flee, the other 2 stayed to the end of the battle, getting as close as any other of their side to getting off the board. And between the 3 of them, they managed to stop an early victory from Minas Tirith, making their arrows bite as they shot down the knights and killed them when they charged. These were definitely the unsung heroes of the list, while everything else, other than potentially Gandalf, did very, very little. As you know, this is game 5 of the 6-game Tabletop Rambling 600-point Middle-earth strategy battle game solo tournament. So please do like, comment and subscribe to the video, and above all, hit that bell button so that you're notified when the final game is released. And if you've not already seen them, do check back on the other episodes in this series. With Minas Tirith's incredible performance there, they are now in a very strong position going into the final game, which will be released in the next week or so. And it is going to come down to the wire, as in the next game their tournament position will be decided. In fact, the entire table in a small 6-game tournament like this could be hugely changed in the next game. It will come down to the final game. But Minas Tirith doing an incredible job there in this battle. I really hope that you've enjoyed this battle and that you're enjoying the tournament and that you're as excited for the final round as I am. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.